Hello, Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to the Men's Mysteries. Thought I would do an impromptu live broadcast to talk about the loneliness epidemic of men. So there are a lot of men out there who are feeling lonely. There are a lot of men out there who are feeling frustrated because they're trying to get into relationships with women, and women aren't interested in having relationships with them. And this is an epidemic for men because they don't really know what to do about it. I see this a lot. I see men who are angry and frustrated and feeling like they've been abandoned and really kind of railing about it. Like, why don't women want to be with me? And one of the things that I see at the same time is that these same men are saying stuff along the lines of, well, the reason she doesn't want to be with me is because I don't have enough money. I'm not successful enough. She only wants to be with me if I have lots of money. She only wants to be with me if I am the dominant man, if I'm the alpha male. She only wants to be with me if I'm making X amount of money and then she's the one getting that and she can manipulate me and use me. This is really toxic thinking that isn't helping at all. And yet I get it. I'm not going to say that there aren't women like that because there are some women like that. I've been involved with a woman like that, a couple of women like that. And I've been fortunate that the majority of relationships that I've had with women have actually been fairly healthy relationships where those women have shown up and been kind and loving. I haven't always been the best person in that relationship, and that's okay because I get it. And I think really when we look at this loneliness epidemic, one of the things that we as men need to be doing is we need to be transforming our relationship with ourselves and our expectations around how we're going to get our needs met. If we're going in with the idea that someone is supposed to take care of us, is supposed to take care of all of our needs, and that we're basically just going to be able to just, kind of get a free ride, well, I don't think it works that way. If we're going in with the idea that all women are manipulative and that they're going to use us for our money, I don't think that really works either. I think that a huge part of what men need, certainly what I've found, is that men need healthy relationships with other men. And we live in a society which discourages that. And why does it discourage that? Because really, at the end of the day, if men are empowered in relationship with each other, then it changes the world. When men are able to connect with each other in healthy, sacred brotherhood, when they are able to share with another man what's going on in their lives and the challenges that they have, that changes everything. Welcome, Stephen. If you have any comments or any questions, feel free to drop them in as I'm talking here. Look, I've been that man who was alone. 2.5 years ago, actually almost 3 years ago, I was that man. I was alone. I still live in Eugene, Oregon. I was living there though. I was driving at night and working all day at a job I hated. So I worked at the job and then I would go right from there and drive around delivering food. I didn't really know anybody and I didn't feel like I knew how to connect with people. I had been broken up with by somebody and I felt isolated when I was with that person. And I didn't trust other men. The idea of trusting another man and being in relationship with other men, being friends with other men felt strange and alien to me. Most of my life, I had not had much in the way of healthy relationships. I had a few men that I was friends with, but most of the time I didn't. Most of the time I was looking at getting my emotional resourcing from women in my life, whether I was friends with them or I was in relationship with them. And I was putting a lot of the burden on those women, whether I realized it or not. And I didn't realize it at the time. It took me going through that breakup and really asking myself, like, what does it even mean to be a man? Because one of the things that I found myself doing in that relationship is I found myself kind of making fun of other men and making fun of masculinity. And that was the thing that really stood out to me. I'm like, why am I making fun of something about myself that's inherent to who I am? I'm a man. At the end of the day, I am a man. I live this life as a man. I can't escape from that unless I decided that I wanted to transition, which I have no interest in doing. All the more power to anyone who does want to do that, but that's not me. I like being in a male body. So why was I making fun of that? Why was I saying stuff like, oh yeah, man, like using terms like mansplaining or toxic masculinity or anything like that? Why was I damaging myself? Because really, at the end of the day, any claim I made about other men, I was also making about myself. I had to really think about that. And in the wake of that breakup, where I was feeling so alone, I realized that a huge part of why I felt alone is that I didn't have relationship with other men in my life. I would get into a relationship with a woman, and that would be pretty much the main relationship I had. I'm not saying I didn't have some friendships. I did. And like when I lived up in Portland, I would do a thing where we'd get together with some people occasionally and hang out. But I didn't really have any relationships with men where I was going outside of that main relationship with the woman I was with in my life. I wasn't going, for example, and going on a hike with other men. I wasn't going and doing some other kind of fun activities where it was just for myself and whoever I made friends with, as opposed to being with just this one person. Instead, I was putting all of my emotional resourcing, all of my needs on that primary relationship. And that actually helped me feel even more alone because I didn't have a healthy relationship with myself. I didn't have a healthy relationship with the woman in my life. And I didn't have a healthy relationship with other people. I was codependent. And this is what I see for a lot of men. I see a lot of codependent nice guys, where those codependent nice guys are basically looking for all the validation, all their needs, everything else to be met by the woman. And a lot of times they're not even voicing it out loud. They're not even saying out loud, like, this is what I want. This is what I need. How powerful would it be to simply say what you want or what you need? And yet a lot of men won't do it. We live in a life of fear. We isolate ourselves. We push ourselves down. That's what I did. I spent so much of my life not speaking up for what I wanted and needed. I was settling for crumbs, but a huge part of it was I was allowing myself to settle for crumbs. I'll never know what would have happened if I had said to, for example, my ex-wife, hey, I want to have a kinky sex life. I didn't. I settled for vanilla sex that I didn't really enjoy. That's just one example of something that I settled for, and that gradually became more and more something that I didn't enjoy at all, and actually killed the passion and the love in that relationship. Because when we go and we live our lives trying as hard as we can to somehow get the other person to meet our needs, but we don't actually speak to them, and we live our lives in a way where we're just putting all our needs onto one person, we end up significantly losing out on the joys of life. And this is part of the loneliness epidemic for men. This is also one of the reasons why so many men are lonely, period, where they're not in relationship. They're so busy looking for that one person that is going to somehow magically meet all their needs, instead of actually saying, like, how can I take care of myself? How can I show up for myself? How can I respect myself and then find other people that I want to spend time around? One of the biggest game changers for me is that in the wake of that relationship that I got out of, I took a course on breakups because it was like, I don't know how to deal with breakups. I'd gotten divorced, and what had I done? I had leaped into a relationship with another woman, a rebound relationship within a few months. I hadn't given myself the time to process that divorce. I was in so much pain and I didn't know how to deal with the pain. I didn't know how to handle it other than to try and find someone else who would end up being a salve for the pain that I was feeling. And that was unfair to that person. Although that person walked into it knowing what she was getting into, she knew it was a rebound relationship. And she's like, well, I can be your rebound relationship. So, I'm not inclined to be like, to totally let her off the hook on that one. Like, she knew what she was getting into, but it just was a very fascinating thing to sit with that. And in the wake of that relationship, ask myself, what can I do to resource myself? So I took a course on how to handle breakups. And as a result, I started asking that question, like, who do I want to be? Who am I? Here I am at 45 years old, age of life. This was a few years ago. And I don't know who I really am. I don't know what I really want. I'm in my middle age. And this is the epidemic for a lot of men. This is why a lot of men feel so alone. They don't know what they really want. They don't know who they are. They don't know what it is that they're actually trying to do with their lives. Instead, they're putting all their purpose, all their mission, everything else into having a relationship with somebody and making that person happy in the hopes that that person won't leave them. What a small life to live. One of the biggest lessons I learned from that experience of the breakup was I need to start taking better care of myself. I need to start figuring out who I am as a man and how I value and respect myself as a man. Because I'm not just a human being, I am a man, and I'm going to go through this world as a man. And I can either go through the world hating myself for being a man, which is how I'd spent so much of my life, even though I didn't want to change that, or I can go through the world actually discovering the joy of being a man and actually saying, you know what, it's good to be a man. It's a good thing. There are good things about being a man. And that was the start of that journey. But one of the most significant change points occurred later that year when I got onto a Zoom call with a bunch of other men. And the fear that I had is if I share what I'm going through, these other men are going to laugh at me. This is what keeps men alone. We are afraid of being judged and disrespected by the other people in our lives. Men have been taught to seek approval instead of respect, even though what men really want is respect. If you look at it this way, this is a really good way to look at just in regards to both men and women. We all want to be seen and heard, right? We all want to be seen and heard. What I've discovered time and again is that women want to be seen and heard and understood. So if a woman comes to you and she's sharing what's going on, she wants you to take the time to listen to her and be fully present and aware with her, to give her the fullness of your attention and presence. And it's not that she doesn't necessarily want you to fix anything. She doesn't want you to solve her problem. She just wants a place where she can fully share what's going on and be received. You can do that for her. That will actually solve about 70% of your relationship issues with the woman in your life. 30%, there's still going to be some other things, but that will solve 70% of your problem right there if you have issues in your relationship. For men, it's I want to be seen and heard, and I want to be respected. I want to feel like I'm respected. And yet, what are men doing? We're trying to get approval. Approval is not the same as respect. If you are always trying to get respect or approval, you are not seeking the same thing as respect. Respect is, I respect you for who you are because you know yourself and you're grounded in yourself and you're showing up for yourself. And that's really what men want. It's actually also what women want from men. They want men who are grounded and present within themselves and know what they want and can actually speak for it. And how do I know this? Well, case in point, great example, current relationship I'm in. This is the relationship that I have actually spoken to, like what I want on a regular basis. Like I tell her, this is what I want. You know, I want some pictures of you. I want this. I want to go on a trip with you. I want to do these other things. Can she always say yes? Not necessarily. We aren't always able to do all those things, but the fact that I speak that and share what I want with her in and of itself has led to a huge level of trust and connection, because I'm not keeping it to myself. I'm not hoping that she's going to read my mind and figure it out. And I'm not trying to get her approval. I'm just saying what I want. And she might not necessarily agree with all of it. She may not necessarily think that it's, always be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But she at least knows what I want and she knows where she stands. That's a huge thing right there. When we know where we stand with each other, it is easier to be in healthy relationships. Bringing it back to the Zoom call that I had, I get on there. I'm afraid that these men, like if I share my story, these men are going to totally laugh at me. And then one of the men shares. And the first thought that goes through my head is, I'm not alone. This is a man who's going through a divorce. He's upset at the loss of his marriage. He's blaming himself. He's beating up on himself. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is me. I beat up on myself all the time. I'm so hard on myself. I'm never good enough. I'm not good enough for myself. And as a result, I'm not good enough for her. If you're watching this and you're a man, I want you to know that you are good enough. And the first person you have to be good enough for is yourself. It's not her. It's yourself. Because as long as you're trying to make it about someone else, you're never going to be good enough. But when you are good enough for yourself, then you're not trying to actually be good enough for her, because you already know that you're good enough. You know what your worth is. You know what your value is. You know that you respect yourself. And that opens doors right there. When I respect myself enough to say I am good enough for myself, that's what makes it work. And let me be clear here. I still struggle with this occasionally. There are still times, even now, 3 years into this journey, that I still sometimes find myself trying to get approval from other people, trying to get other people to quote unquote like me. And every time I catch myself doing it, I come back to, what am I giving away here? I'm giving away my power as a person. I'm giving away my presence as a person. I am compromising who I am to try and fit into what I think this other person wants. I don't beat myself up for it though. I'm just like, oh, okay, I caught myself doing that. Let's reorient. And I turn toward myself, because in turning toward myself, I'm then able to show up better for the people in my life in a real and genuine way. And that's what all they want. After I had that Zoom meeting, I went to a martial arts studio, and that was the other thing that happened, is I started going and doing an activity just for myself. It wasn't about making anyone else happy. It wasn't about trying to get something, for like my business or writing or anything like that. Because the other aspect that I had to sit with is that every single activity I did in my life was either trying to get someone else's approval, or it was trying to make money, or it was trying to do something. It was trying to get something. What I wasn't doing was, I wasn't doing an activity that was just like, I'm doing this for me. And it's not about trying to get something external. It's about actually fulfilling an intrinsic desire for myself. For me, that's martial arts. That's why I do martial arts. I feel really good in my body. I feel landed. I feel proud of the way that I move and what this teaches me and how I discipline myself. And I get to be in relationship with other people there. Most of the people there are other men, but there's a few women and non-binary people, and like really all of us are there sharing our combined interest in martial arts. But I discovered that I didn't have to live a lonely life. I started to make friends again. I started to actually make friends for the sake of making friends with those people, not because I was trying to get their approval, but just because I was sharing an activity with them that brought meaning and purpose to me. Men need that. Women need it as well, honestly. But I think women in general are better at it than men, or at least it seems that way to me. Now, I could be wrong. And really, at the end of the day, if I am, fair enough, I'll own that. But here's what I will say from the perspective of a man: getting out there and connecting with other men, doing activities that are fun and that are straight, that are for myself, but allow me to also be in brotherhood with other people, feels like the healthiest change in my life. If you were to look at my phone book from 2.5 years ago on my phone, like, I didn't have that many phone numbers. Now I have tons of phone numbers. I can literally call somebody from around the world and connect if I need to. I have brothers in Australia. I have brothers in South America. I have brothers in Canada. I have brothers in all over the US. And why do I share that? It's not to make a boast. It's because there is this very real sense of comradeship. I'm not alone. If the romantic relationship that I was in didn't work out for whatever reason, although I'm really relatively sure it will, just because we both committed to being mutually in, and we've agreed that we're going to turn toward each other and work things out, and because this is the best level of communication I've ever had in my life with somebody. But if it didn't work out for whatever reason, I would know that I was still not alone. I would know that I still had people in my life, no matter what. People that were there for me, and people that I can be there for. When I got into another relationship in between this one and the one I'm in now, or the one I was in, when I first got into men's work. And when I broke up with that person, because it wasn't a good fit, and part of it was, again, my people pleasing behaviors. I'd gotten into a relationship where I was trying to people please. There were other problems, but that was my end of it. I had people to call. That breakup was a lot easier to go through because I had people to call. I could call any one of my brothers that I needed to call, and I called a few of them daily for a while, just talking with them, connecting with them. And none of them were like, "Oh, Taylor, don't call." No, they were there for me. And I also got to learn more about them and share what was going on with their experiences. This is what men need. Instead of putting all the pressure onto a relationship, a romantic relationship, and hoping that that person is going to be the be all end all of everything, stop. Like, just stop doing that. Start developing healthy relationships with other men. Go to a men's weekend retreat. Connect with a men's coach like me. If you're struggling and you're not sure like what to do, connect with someone like me, because we can help you. Find out like what you need to do to create healthy relationships with other men in your life so that you're not feeling alone. Because when you have healthy relationships with other men, then no matter what is happening, you will come out of it just fine. And here's the truth. Men are not meant to walk this world alone. Neither are women, right? But we're not meant to go through life lone wolfing it, having to have it all figured out. And yet I can tell you that that was the version of masculinity that I lived with for so long. It was like, I have to have it all figured out. I have to provide the resources. I can't show that I'm scared. I can't show that I'm feeling anxiety. I can't do any of these other things. I can't be weak and vulnerable. I can't be open. It's not even really about being weak and vulnerable, but honestly, that's how I felt. I judged myself for having emotions. I judged myself for moments where I was feeling anxious. I judged myself every time I worried about something. And what was I doing? I was essentially creating separation from myself. That's not healthy. And yet that's what so many men are doing. And what they're hoping for is that when they get into a relationship, a romantic relationship, that the person that they're in romantic relationship with is somehow going to, quote unquote, fix all that and prop them up. And that's exhausting. No one wants to do that. No one wants to have to prompt you up. And that might be a hard truth to hear. I know there are a lot of men who don't want to hear that. They want to basically be taken care of emotionally. And my response to that is like, take care of yourself. Wipe your own ass. That's a hard thing to hear, but it's true. Take care of yourself emotionally. But part of how you take care of yourself emotionally isn't going it alone. It's actually connecting with other men in healthy relationships. It's actually having other men that you sit with and talk with. I think one of the most liberating experiences for me is that when I am feeling anxious or upset, when I feel grief, when I have something going on in my life, I can call another man up on the phone, or I can go to my men's circle and talk with those other men. A good example of this, a couple weeks ago, I was at a training. I had a realization that I was seeking some approval from a few of the people there. I recognized it for what it was. And then I had another realization that I basically had some things I needed to say to my dad. Well, my dad's passed on. He's dead. I had not gotten to say those things before he passed on. What I did is I went to my men's circle. I shared with them what was going on. I shared the realizations I had. No one judged me for the fact that I was trying to get approval from other people. No one judged me for the fact that I had a realization around my dad that I needed to share. I needed to basically say some things to him. Instead, what we did is we set up a process, and I said what I needed to say to my dad. And I allowed myself to grieve. I cried in front of those men. I let some stuff out that needed to be let out. And I came out the other side feeling supported, loved, and I came out feeling more respect for myself and feeling like I had reclaimed a piece of myself that I'd been giving away to other people that those people didn't even know I was giving away. I was in a covert contract. I was hoping that they were going to fulfill that covert contract. They didn't know it. I knew it, but I wasn't voicing it. And I stopped. And this is part of what men's work is about, is like we are reclaiming ourselves and our relationship with ourselves on our terms. And we do that by doing it with the reality that we don't have to be alone in the world. We don't have to lone wolf it. We don't have to have it all figured out. We can have space where we can share what's going on. And we don't at the same time have to put it all on our romantic partners. And let me be very clear here. If you're in a relationship with your wife or a girlfriend or whatever that relationship looks like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't share what's going on because she wants to know. What I am saying is don't put it all on her. Don't expect her to do all the emotional labor. Show up having done some of that work. Show up knowing that you've talked with somebody else and that you've connected with other men, for example. Because the way that you share it is going to actually be more real and authentic. And she's going to respect you for that because you respect yourself enough to take care of yourself, and you've respected yourself enough to have those healthy relationships outside of the main relationship that you're in that actually support your ability to show up for her as well. None of us want to be alone, but we have to learn how to be in relationship with ourselves from a place of respect, and in relationship with ourselves from a place of genuine connection and curiosity for the other people in our lives, and with a willingness to actually share what we want and need. And yes, is it terrifying to share what you want and need? It is. I can say that even now, there's a little frisson of fear that I feel sometimes when I ask for something that I want. Am I going to be rejected? Am I going to be disapproved of? But here's the thing that I've come to realize. That fear has a lot more to do with societal programming than anything to do with myself. And as soon as you start to see it for what it is, then you can turn that fear into an edge that pushes you to actually do what you want to do. And that's what I do. I turn my fear into fuel. I turn it into fuel, and then I send it outward to the world around me. And I'm like, here it is. This is what I want. This is what I need. Okay. And again, I'm not guaranteed that I'm going to get that, but hey, at least I've spoken up for it. I've respected myself enough to say this is what I want and need, and I've voiced it clearly, and I've respected the other person. That in and of itself will solve a lot of the problems. So if you're a man and you're watching this and you're feeling alone in the world, I'm gonna kind of recap this here for you. Here's what I want to leave you with. One, you don't have to lone wolf your way through life. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be the strong person. Yes, we want you. Yes, we want to be grounded. But strength isn't pushing everything down and being stoic. Strength is I'm showing up with presence, attention, and awareness and connection. I'm showing up aware of who I am, what my values are, and I'm speaking up for myself without expecting other people to automatically meet those needs and wants, but I'm respecting myself enough and they're going to respect me in return. That's part of it. Two, develop healthy relationships outside of your main relationship. If you're married or in a romantic relationship, don't put it all on the person that you're with. Your wife or your girlfriend does not want to carry all that weight. She wants to know that you can carry that weight of what you feel, and she wants to be there for you, but she wants to know that you can also genuinely show up for yourself. And you can do that. This is the third point, by developing healthy relationships with other men, where you're not trying to compete with those men, where you're not trying to get their approval, where you're not playing some kind of game where you're having to prove who is the manliest of men or who's the alpha male. Honestly, that's all just a show. It's a performance. Show up for yourself. Show up grounded and connected. That's what you want for yourself. And that's what really the people in your life, if they genuinely love you and care about you, that's what they want from you. So feel free to drop a comment in, heart this, share it. I'm going to be posting it up here. This is live right now, so in a few moments it'll come back. It'll come out on Substack. Share with other people and be kind to yourself. We're not meant to walk this world alone, and we don't have to be alone. There are solutions here, and a huge part of the solution is learning to respect and value yourself enough to show up for yourself and to choose to create intentional relationships with people around you and in touch with your own desires. That is going to get you the life that you want. Thanks for attending my TED Talk.